10 Apache Wives, an Old West Tale. The morning sun was just cresting the mesa when I heard the horses approaching. Living alone on the Broken Arrow Ranch for nigh on 3 years had taught me to recognize every sound that carried across the desert: the whistle of wind through sandstone, the rustle of jackrabbits in the sage, and most importantly, the rhythm of hoofbeats that didn't belong to my own livestock. I set down my coffee cup and reached for the Winchester, leaning against the porch rail. The sound was getting closer, maybe a dozen horses moving at an easy lope from the north. In this territory that could mean Apache, cavalry, or rustlers, none of which typically brought good news to a man trying to make an honest living raising cattle in the shadow of the Chiricahua Mountains. My name is Samuel McKinnon, though most folks just call me Mac. I'd come west after the war between the states, carrying nothing but a cavalry saber, a broken heart, and dreams of starting fresh where nobody knew about the things I'd done or seen. The Broken Arrow wasn't much, just a weathered cabin, a barn that leaned like a drunk cowpoke, and enough scrubland to graze maybe 50 head of cattle. But it was mine, bought fair and square with my army pay and the proceeds from selling my daddy's farm back in Missouri. The riders crested the small rise that bordered my property, and I felt my grip tighten on the rifle. 10 horses, 10 riders, moving with the fluid grace that marked them as Apache before I could even make out their face. What made my blood run cold wasn't the fact that they were Apache. I'd learned to respect and even trade peacefully with some of the local bands, but that every single rider was a woman. Apache women didn't ride in war parties, they didn't scout enemy territory, and they sure as hell didn't approach a white man's ranch unless something was terribly wrong. They rode straight toward my cabin with purpose, showing no signs of hostility but also no signs of planning to stop and parley at a respectful distance. I kept the Winchester ready but didn't raise it. Starting a fight with 10 Apache women seemed like a good way to end up buzzard food, even if I didn't understand what they wanted. The lead rider was a woman who might have been 30, with steel gray eyes that seemed to take in everything about my ranch in a single sweep. She wore traditional Apache dress, buckskin skirt and shirt decorated with beadwork, but also carried a Winchester of her own, and had a cavalry saber hanging from her horse's saddle. The other women ranged in age from barely 20 to perhaps 50, all of them armed, all of them watching me with expressions I couldn't read. They stopped about 20 feet from my porch, horses stamping and snorting in the morning heat. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The silence stretched out like a wire about to snap, broken only by the sound of leather creaking and horses breathing. Finally, the woman with the gray eyes spoke in accented but clear English. "You are Samuel McKinnon." It wasn't a question. I nodded slowly, wondering how she knew my name and what she planned to do with that information. "My name is Ayanna," she continued. "These are my sisters, some by blood, some by choice, all by circumstance." She gestured to the women flanking her. "We have traveled 3 days to reach this place." "That's quite a journey," I said carefully, still not sure where this conversation was heading. "What brings you to the Broken Arrow?" Ayanna's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those gray eyes: amusement, maybe, or something harder to define. "We have come to claim what is ours by right." "I'm afraid I don't understand, ma'am. This land is mine, bought legal and proper from the territorial government." "Not the land," said another woman, this one younger, with braided black hair and a scar running from her left temple to her jaw. "You." The bottom dropped out of my stomach. "Come again." Ayanna urged her horse forward a few steps. "6 moons ago you found our band under attack by Mexican slavers near Skeleton Creek. You fought beside our warriors, helped drive off the raiders. 3 of our men died that day, including my husband. I remembered that day all too well. I'd been tracking strays when I heard gunfire and rode toward the sound. What I found was a small Apache camp under attack by a group of Mexican bandits who specialized in capturing Indians to sell as slaves further south. I'd waded into the fight without thinking much about it. Couldn't stand by and watch innocent people get slaughtered, Apache or otherwise. I remember I said, 'I'm sorry for your losses.'" "Do not be sorry," Ayanna said. "Be understanding. By Apache law, when a warrior dies in battle fighting alongside another man, that man becomes responsible for the welfare of the dead warrior's family. You fought beside 3 men who died. You are now responsible for 3 families." "But there is more," interrupted the woman with the scar. Her voice was harder than Ayanna's. carrying an edge that suggested she'd seen more violence than any person should. Our band was scattered after the attack. Some fled to the reservation, some went south to Mexico, some joined other bands. We had nowhere to go, no husbands, no fathers, no protection in a world that grows more dangerous for our people every day. I was beginning to understand, and what I understood scared the hell out of me. Ayana nodded as if she could read my thoughts. Among our people, when women are left without protection, they may choose a warrior to provide for them. We have chosen you. Now hold on, I said, raising my free hand. I appreciate the honor, truly, but you misunderstand, said an older woman whose hair was streaked with silver. We are not asking, we are telling. You are our husband now, we are your wives. This is decided. The morning sun suddenly felt a lot hotter, and it wasn't just the desert heat. 10 wives, 10 Apache wives who'd ridden 3 days to inform me that I was now responsible for their welfare. Women who'd lost everything and had chosen me as their solution. Ma'am, I said to Ayana, figuring she was the leader of this particular delegation. I'm honored by your confidence, but I'm not sure you understand how this works in white society. A man can't just. We do not live in white society. The scarred woman cut me off. White society offers us nothing but reservations, disease and death. We choose the old ways. Besides, added a younger woman with an impish smile that seemed out of place given the seriousness of the conversation, you are already married to us in the eyes of the spirit. The ceremony was performed 3 days ago by our medicine woman. You simply were not present. I stared at her. You got married to me without me being there. Apache ceremonies do not require the husband to be present, Ayana explained matter-of-factly, only that he be willing to accept the responsibilities of marriage when the time comes. But I never said I was willing. Did you not fight beside our men? Asked the older woman. Did you not risk your life for people who were strangers to you? Did you not show honor and courage in battle? Well, yes, but then you showed that you were willing to accept Apache responsibilities, Ayana concluded. The rest was simply a matter of ceremony. I sat down heavily on the porch steps, setting the Winchester across my knees. This was not how I'd planned to spend my Thursday morning. Let me get this straight. You 10 ladies consider yourselves married to me based on a ceremony I didn't attend, because I helped out in a fight 6 months ago. That is correct, Ayana said, and you rode 3 days to inform me of this development. Also correct, and you expect me to just accept this arrangement. The woman with the scar leaned forward in her saddle. What choice do you have? What choice do we have? The world is changing, Samuel McKinnon. The Apache way of life is ending. Soon there will be only reservations and broken promises. We choose to make our own fate while we still can. There was something in her voice, desperation hidden beneath fierce pride, that hit me harder than all the logical arguments in the world. These women weren't here because they wanted to. They were here because everywhere else led to slow death or worse. What are your names? I asked finally. Ayana smiled for the first time since arriving. I am Ayana, as I told you. This is Cochita, she indicated the woman with the scar, and Desba, Palona, Istas, Kachina, Layu, Nayeli, Onita and Tuya. Each woman nodded as her name was spoken. I studied their faces, trying to commit the names to memory. They ranged in age from Nayeli, who couldn't have been more than 19, to Onita, who had the weathered look of someone who'd seen 60 hard years. Some bore the marks of violence, scars, a missing finger, burn mark. Others looked like they'd lived gentler lives before whatever catastrophe had brought them here. All right, I said finally. I reckon we need to talk about how this is going to work. Over the next few hours we hashed out the details of what was surely the strangest domestic arrangement in the entire Arizona territory. The women had brought supplies, horses, and a surprising amount of practical knowledge about everything from tracking game to treating gunshot wounds. They'd also brought something I hadn't expected, a plan. We are not here to be decorations, Cochita explained as we sat around my kitchen table, which suddenly seemed very small. We are here to survive, and to help you survive. This ranch could support many more cattle than you currently run. We know where to find water in the dry season, which plants can be eaten or used for medicine, how to hunt game that your white hunters cannot track. More importantly, added Desba, a woman in her mid-30s with intricate tattoos on her hands, we know how to fight. The Comancheros have been raiding this area for months, taking cattle and horses. Alone you are vulnerable. With us you are protected. It was true that I'd been having trouble with raiders lately. Just last month, I'd lost 6 head to rustlers and hadn't been able to track them down. The territorial marshal was too busy with more pressing matters to investigate cattle theft on remote ranches. What about supplies? I asked. Food, clothing, things like that? We provide for ourselves. Ayanna said simply. Apache women are not helpless. We hunt, we gather, we make what we need. We ask only for shelter and the protection that comes from being part of a family again. The more we talked, the more I realized that this arrangement might actually make sense in a twisted sort of way. I'd been struggling to make the ranch profitable on my own, and these women possessed skills and knowledge that could make the difference between success and failure in this harsh country. But there was still one elephant in the room that nobody had addressed. What about marital relations? I asked carefully, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. The women exchanged glances and several of them smiled. It was Luyu, a quiet woman with prematurely gray hair, who answered. Among our people, marriage is about family and survival, not just physical joining. Some of us may choose to share your bed in time, some may not. This will be decided between individuals, not imposed by ceremony or custom. For now, added Kachina, a woman with laugh lines around her eyes despite everything she'd probably endured, we are content to share your table and your roof. The rest can wait until we all know each other better. And so it was that I went from being a bachelor rancher trying to scrape out a living in the Arizona territory, to being the husband of 10 Apache women who'd appointed themselves my wives, whether I liked it or not. The first few weeks were challenging. Imagine trying to reorganize your entire life around 10 women who spoke a different language, followed different customs, and had very definite opinions about how things should be done. My small cabin became a bustling hive of activity as the women set about making improvements I never would have thought of. Istas and Tuya, who turned out to be sisters, took over the cooking and somehow managed to make my meager supplies stretch 3 times as far while actually improving the taste. Halona, who had experience with horses, looked at my small remuda and immediately began planning breeding strategies that would double my herd within 3 years. Onida, despite her age, proved to be an expert tracker and scout, able to read sign that I couldn't even see. But it was Cachita who impressed me most. That scar on her face came from fighting Mexican slavers who'd captured her first husband. She'd killed 3 men getting free and had been leading raids against slaver camps ever since. When she looked at my ranch's defenses, she didn't see a home, she saw a fortress waiting to be built. Within a month, my property had been transformed. The women had constructed additional buildings using techniques that blended Apache practicality with frontier necessity. There was a new bunkhouse for those who preferred privacy, a larger kitchen that could handle cooking for 11 people, and defensive positions that would make the ranch a tough nut for any raiders to crack. More importantly, the women had begun to feel like family. Nayeli's laughter could brighten even the darkest morning. Desba's stories of Apache history and legend kept us entertained through long evenings. Ayanna's quiet wisdom helped settle the inevitable disputes that arose when 11 strong-willed people tried to live together. It was during the 2nd month that we faced our first real test. I was out checking the herd with Anita when she suddenly reined in her horse and held up a warning hand. "Riders coming," she said quietly. "Many riders, from the south." I could see them now, a dust cloud on the horizon that spoke of at least 20 horses moving fast. In this country that usually meant trouble. We raced back to the ranch to find the women already preparing for a fight. Weapons were distributed, positions taken, and within minutes my peaceful ranch had been transformed into a defensive stronghold. I'd never seen anything like the efficiency with which these women prepared for battle. The riders who approached were Comancheros, Mexican bandits who specialized in trading with hostile Indian tribes and weren't particular about where their merchandise came from. Their leader was a man named Vargas, who'd been raiding in the area for months. "Hola, amigo," Vargas called out as his men spread out in a rough line facing our ranch. "We hear you have new residents, perhaps you would like to sell some of them to us." See? The implication was clear. He'd heard about the Apache women and figured I might be willing to trade them for gold. The thought made my blood boil. "These women are under my protection," I called back. "I suggest you move along." Vargas laughed. "Protection? 1 gringo against 20 vaqueros? I think you should reconsider, amigo." That's when Cacheta stepped out onto the porch beside me, her Winchester cradled in her arms. "Samuel McKinnon is not alone, pig," she said in clear Spanish, And these are not defenseless women for you to steal. Vargas's expression changed when he recognized her. Kachit, we thought you were dead. Many men have thought that, she replied coldly. They were wrong. The standoff stretched for several tense minutes before Vargas apparently decided that the potential profits weren't worth tangling with Cacheta and whatever surprises she might have prepared. The Comancheros wheeled their horses and rode away, but not before Vargas called out a threat about returning with more men. Will they be back? I asked Cacheta as we watched them disappear. Yes, she said simply, but when they return, they will find us ready. She was right on both counts. 2 weeks later, Vargas returned with nearly 40 men, planning to overwhelm our defenses with sheer numbers. What he found instead was a carefully planned ambush that left half his men wounded or dead, and sent the survivors fleeing back toward Mexico with their tails between their legs. The women had spent those 2 weeks turning my ranch into a fortress that would have made a cavalry officer proud. Hidden rifle pits, carefully placed obstacles, and escape routes that only someone raised in this desert could have planned. When the fighting started, it was over almost before it began. Word of our victory spread quickly through the territory. Suddenly, the Broken Arrow Ranch had a reputation as a place where trouble went to die. Other ranchers began seeking our advice on defending their property. The territorial marshal, who'd been too busy to investigate my earlier complaints, suddenly found time to visit and congratulate us on our civic-minded approach to law enforcement. But more than that, I began to realize that these 10 women had given me something I hadn't even known I was missing. A real family. Not just the blood relations I'd lost during the war, but a chosen family bound together by mutual respect and shared struggle. It was Ayana who helped me understand what had really happened that day when they'd ridden up to my ranch. You think we came here because we had no choice, she said one evening as we sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains red. That is only partly true. We came here because we chose you not just as a protector, but as a man worthy of protection in return. I'm not sure I understand. When you fought beside our men at Skeleton Creek, you could have simply driven off the slavers and ridden away. Instead, you helped tend the wounded, helped bury the dead, shared your food with the survivors. You showed that you understood what it means to be part of something larger than yourself. She paused, studying the desert landscape that had become our shared home. That day we saw that you were already Apache in your heart. The ceremony simply made it official. As the months passed, some of the women did choose to share my bed and my life in ways that went beyond simple partnership. Others remained close friends and valuable allies. All of them became family in the truest sense of the word, people who'd chosen to bind their fates together for mutual survival and support. The ranch prospered under our combined effort. We expanded the herd, improved the buildings, and established trade relationships with other Apache bands that remained free. The territorial government eventually recognized our success by offering me a contract to provide beef to the cavalry posts in the area, a contract that would have been impossible to fulfill without the knowledge and skills my wives brought to the partnership. But perhaps the most important thing that happened was that we proved something that both white and Apache societies claimed was impossible, that people from different cultures could come together as equals, and create something stronger than what either could accomplish alone. Looking back now, 5 years later, I realized that the morning 10 Apache women rode up to my ranch and announced that I was their husband wasn't the beginning of a strange arrangement, it was the beginning of a new kind of family, one built not on the traditions of any single culture, but on the shared values of courage, loyalty and mutual respect. And while it's true that they didn't ask twice when they declared me their husband, I've never regretted that they did. Sometimes the best things in life are the ones that choose you rather than the ones you choose yourself. The Broken Arrow Ranch became legendary throughout the territory, not just as a successful cattle operation, but as proof that the old divisions between peoples didn't have to define the future. Visitors often left shaking their heads in amazement at what we'd built together. As for me, well, I learned that being married to 10 remarkable women was a blessing I never could have imagined when I first came west, looking for a fresh start. They'd given me not just wives, but partners, defenders, teachers, and friends. And every morning when I wake up on the ranch we've built together, I'm grateful that sometimes the most important decisions in life are the ones that get made for you by people wise enough to see what you need before you see it yourself. The sun still rises over the mesa each morning, painting the desert in shades of gold and red, but now when I step out onto the porch with my coffee I'm not alone. I'm surrounded by the sounds of a thriving ranch and a thriving family, children's laughter mixing with the lowing of cattle, the ring of hammers as new buildings take shape,
and the quiet conversations of women who chose to make their stand here with me in this harsh and beautiful land. They came to claim what was theirs by right, they said. What I discovered was that what they claimed wasn't just me, it was the chance to build something new and lasting in a world that seemed determined to destroy everything they'd known and loved. And in claiming me, they gave me the greatest gift of all. They gave me a home that was truly worth defending.